Hey, it's Kim. Welcome to today's video that's all about the minimalist interior design style. In today's video, I'll be breaking down what this style encompasses. I'll give you a little bit of history of how it all originated and give you some tips on how you can accomplish the minimalist interior design style in your own space. As we all know, minimalism is nothing new, but it's definitely having a moment right now. And while I would say it's not a trend, because it's something that certainly has been around for a long time and will probably be around for a long time to come, this video is definitely timely in explaining the style and how it can best suit your space if it's something you're interested in. All right, let's get started. So with the history of minimalist design, we've seen some of its origins first beginning in architecture. And that is architecture stemming back from the early 1920s. And here, more simplistic structures were introduced. It got rid of all of those flourishes and those large ornate details that you might have seen in construction and replaced it with simple, smooth, and clean lines, and also mixed in a bit of modernist details. Minimalist design also had its start referencing traditional Japanese design, where only those things that are needed are used inside of a space. And as time moved on further, we also saw the spawn of the minimalist art movement in the 1960s. So in art pieces, we saw clean forms using minimalist and modernist design techniques. So as we fast forward to today's times and what we all know as minimalist interior design, it's important to define what is minimalist design. So there are a few key facets to take into consideration. And the first is function over fluff or over the extras. Definitely the focus is on making sure every single piece in the space has a function. It has to be functional before it's necessarily pretty. And harkening back to the minimalist architecture style, everything is quite simple. There's no flourishes, no ornate details that you would see in minimalist interior design. Simple colors are used, as well as clean lines, shapes, and forms. And the entire idea is mostly to come from a less is more approach. And in that less is more approach, we make sure that the less or the least amount of articles or elements that you bring into the space are definitely top quality, I would say. So it's definitely quality over quantity. In a minimalist interior design space, you would definitely omit any unnecessary items. Things, like I said, that do not function or do not serve a purpose in the space would not be included. And it's always important to remember that white space is crucial. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be the color white, but anything that represents to the eye a blank space or a blank spot on which you can rest your eye. So that open airiness is crucial for a minimalist interior design space. Now here we'll go over a few photos showing exactly what a minimalist design space looks like. I'll point out all of the areas that I spoke about earlier that you can actually see in these examples. These photos were taken from Pinterest, and I'll have my Pinterest boards linked down below. The first thing I want to point out is that Scandinavian design is also viewed as minimalist, with the main difference being its basis on hygge, which is the feeling of comfort and coziness that is characteristic of Danish culture. Let's move on to why these examples would be considered minimalist. The spaces are open and airy while using lighter colors. Clean lines and simple colors are also used in these spaces. It's also important to note that only functional furniture pieces are present in both spaces. The overarching concept is certainly achieved here. Less is more. Alright, so now that I've given you a brief history of minimalist design, I've shown you some examples and given you some basic principles of what is included in minimalist interior design. Now I want to give you some tips on how you can implement this design style in your space. When starting, it's always important to keep those few basic principles or tenets that I already discussed in mind. So the whole less is more approach, and whatever you do bring into your space, make sure it exudes quality craftsmanship and design. Definitely nothing cheap here. Don't forget to also include your white spaces or your clear and open spaces to give that feeling of openness and airiness in your minimalist design. Also, really make sure that anything you bring into the space serves a purpose. It should be there for a function of some sort. If not, it would be deemed unnecessary. Now I will say that some things, just some things that you really like. Maybe there's a piece of artwork that speaks to your soul in some kind of way. So obviously it's serving a purpose because it's making you happy. It also could be setting the color tone for the space. It could be setting the mood for the space. So while it's artwork hanging on a wall and you can't necessarily do anything physically with it, it still does serve a purpose in a minimalist design. When choosing colors for your space, and that can be colors through textiles or wall colors, you definitely want to choose colors that are more neutral, colors that are more monochromatic, things that don't take away from the design in any kind of way. And you also want to consider that when choosing your anchor pieces. So if you have larger pieces of furniture that you might need for the space, like sofas or storage pieces, you also want to make sure you're picking something with clean and simple lines, something that is definitely functional, as we spoke about already, and something that doesn't take away too much from the design. And make sure it doesn't take away from the calm, serene mood of the design as well. And in sticking with that airy and light mood of a minimalist design, make sure your use of the space is also going along with these principles. So we want to make sure that the room is not entirely cluttered, full of things that you don't need. But I guess in actuality, if you are adding only pieces that serve functions, it really shouldn't get too cluttered. But make sure you are definitely using the most of your space and making sure that you have an open floor plan for the eye to rest on, as well as when you're using the space. Okay, so let's recap. What is minimalist design? We know that it favors function over fluff or over the extras. We know the principle of less is more. I think I may have said that a million times in this video already. We know that it favors clean lines and very simple designs. And we want to make sure that the space stays open, airy, and light, with the use of colors and textiles that are chosen for the space as well. So that covers minimalist interior design and how you can implement it in your space. And if after you're seeing these examples and you're still not sure if this design style is the one for you, I encourage you to check out these videos that I'll have up in the eye, as well as linked down below, because there's also one that I have that summarizes a few of the interior design styles all in one video, as well as a couple of other extra videos that explain different design styles that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And anything I referenced or shown in this video will be linked down in the description box. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.